car accident. I really don't have a comment on a car accident.
It's not a car accident.
So again, we're here to say what a great job that we're doing here in law enforcement. The people behind you, Aaron, have put in many, many hours away from their families in very dangerous situations.
And good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on Voices. Erie County Sheriff John Garcia today refusing to comment on a massive scandal erupting within his office. One of his top leaders, Chief of Narcotics Daniel DJ Granville, who you see there, accused in a lawsuit of driving while impaired and hitting more than a half dozen parked cars while going the wrong way on a one-way street. Now, this happened nearly a year ago, yet we have no record of any disciplinary action or any investigation within the sheriff's office itself. It appears that the chief was put back into a Buffalo police car at the scene, yet no charges were filed. Most of the public didn't know anything about this until Investigative Post broke the story earlier this morning. And take a look at this. The chief was at an unrelated press conference earlier today about a major drug bust, yet he had no comment when 7 News asked him about this case. Joining us live here tonight with some insight on this is our 7 News reporter Kristen Morand and also Jeff Kelly, the aforementioned reporter there from Investigative Post who broke this story. Thanks to both of you for coming on tonight. And Jeff, I want to start with you and how it is that we learned about this and how it is that it was kept a secret for what, going on 10 months?
How it was kept a secret for so long, I'm not quite sure. How it came to light is through the notices of claim. The people who own the cars that were damaged filed claims with the county, and the county paid them out, and that left a record, and that told the story.
And Kristen, I want to go to you because there was a news conference earlier today, right. And this was, of course, unrelated to this announcement, but everyone assumed that when you got there, the sheriff would answer some questions about this. That's not exactly how it played out, huh?
No, not at all, Michael. And you'd think, too, he has the opportunity to address these allegations here, this claim of what actually happened, and that didn't happen. It took a while for all of us reporters to really push him to get him to say a little bit more about that. And you heard Jeff there earlier talk about those settlements that the county had to play out there, and that cost taxpayers over $60,000. I actually asked the sheriff about that. Here's what he said.
You did.
Sheriff, with all due respect, this is costing taxpayers over $60,000 in reference to this hit and run accident. I mean, where's the transparency here when it comes to addressing this and just giving at least the public some answers here?
Right. The Buffalo Police Department is doing an internal affairs investigation, and so until that concludes, for me, it's a car accident. I haven't heard otherwise, and until something else is put before me, it's a car accident.
Yeah. And the other thing here, too, Michael, is that he was asked if the Erie County Sheriff's Office would do its own internal investigation. He said the short answer here is no. You also had the Erie County District Attorney Michael Kane in the room while we were asking these questions. He said, look, I don't have anything from the Buffalo Police Department, so I'm not going to look into this potential investigation, Michael.
Jeff, I want to ask you about what the sheriff said there when Kristen asked that great question. He basically said, as far as he knows, it was just a car accident. I mean, is there any situation in which, based on what we know and based on what is alleged here, that this was just a car accident?
Well, I think it's worth pointing out that at least 5 police cars responded to the scene. There were a dozen Buffalo police employees, including at least 5 officers, and his sister-in-law as the supervising lieutenant who reported to the scene to investigate this kind of spree of mayhem. So I don't think it was just a car accident in the usual sense of the word.
And Kristen, building on what Jeff said there, there is a connection here with the Buffalo Police Department, which of course responded to this, and this familial connection, right, between the officer with the sheriff's office and then who responded. You got to look into that today too, right?
Yeah, I did. So of course, right, this is bringing in now the Buffalo Police Department, the city of Buffalo. So I was able to catch up with Acting Mayor Chris Gallon about this and that connection there. Here's what he said about that. Is there any concern there about a conflict of interest?
So this whole incident is just something that's really just recently come to light, and something that I was just recently been made aware of. It's something I believe happened about a year ago, before my time as mayor. I know there is an ongoing investigation about it, so it's tough for me to comment on any ongoing investigation, in particular when it's an internal affairs one, because that's information that I'm not made privy to. So it's very difficult for me to comment on any of the stuff really going on with the investigation.
So you heard Scanlon there. He says, look, there's this internal investigation within the Buffalo Police Department. Once that gets handled, he told me, look, we might have to start looking into this once that all plays out.
And Jeff, I guess moving forward into all of this, you heard Kristen there saying there is an internal affairs investigation within the Buffalo Police Department, but do you have any sense, based on your reporting, and I know you worked on this for a while, that there is an actual investigation into the underlying issue, right? An internal affairs investigation is about how did police handle it, but what about just investigating what is alleged to have happened here, that the chief with the sheriff's office is alleged to have been under the influence of something, hitting all these cars, and never any charges?
Right. Well, so you're right. The internal affairs investigation would look at police response to the incident, and not necessarily at the conduct of Granville himself. Although, in an ideal world, they would, in fact, sort of take a look backward and see how this mess came to be in the first place, and not just what Buffalo police did or didn't do when they arrived on the scene.
And Kristen, one of the things that stood out to me as we were all watching the news conference, you were in the room, we watched it afterward, is the sheriff just repeatedly refusing to give any specifics about this and constantly turning his attention back to why he was there today. They scheduled this news conference about a drug bust. Do you get the sense that he thought, hey, I'm going to stick to the script and just talk about this drug bust? And kudos to law enforcement for the drug bust, but there were questions to be asked and answered today.
Yeah, definitely. Look, that work that they did there and that they showed off was, of course, important work, but this is also something that was coming to light today. Really unsure here how long they've been aware of the situation, but you have the chief of narcotics right there in front of us. You have the sheriff, you have the DA. Do you think one of them would want to address a little bit more thoroughly? I was able to look at the chief of narcotics and say, hey, do you have anything to say about this? These are allegations against you. This is a very serious lawsuit against you. The settlement's there. And he said, look, I have no comment. So, you would think you would expect a little bit more from them. But hopefully, as this plays out, we can get more from the sheriff's office.
Yeah, and Jeff, I'll just end by asking you what questions need to still be answered from the Erie County Sheriff and from Buffalo Police, which ultimately should be the ones investigating this as a potential crime if it was one.
Well, sure, but to go back to your previous question, so the internal affairs for the Buffalo Police will be looking at their response, but it is the Sheriff's Professional Standards Division that probably should be looking into the circumstances that led to Granville's accident, to him hitting these cars. What was he doing? What was he doing in a sheriff's vehicle leading up to the accident? Those are the questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, and the question of, was there a cover-up here? How did no one ever learn about this, considering taxpayers have had to foot $60,000 to pay out these settlements for the damage that was done that night. Excellent reporting by both of you. Jeff Kelly, who broke this story earlier this morning, go to investigativepost.org and you can read kind of how this all played out. And Kristen, more from you coming up tonight at 6. We appreciate it.